You ready? So
Nope.
are you ready?
No, I'm not.
Why not, Nicholas? We do this the same goddamn time every week. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of all ages, the Dork Shared Universe at Geeks Worldwide Radio proudly presents to you the greatest podcasting team in the world. He's the Fry Guy, Nick Friar. I'm the Backcracker, Dr. Joe. Together, we not only are the bad boys of podcasting, the bad boys of books, we are dem ring boys. Nicholas J.S. Fryer. We are TLDR, Comic Book Club, baby. How you doing?
We're actually TLDW.
W. Yeah,
this
that's right.
week.
Today. That's
Yes.
right.
But yes, we are them ring boys because we are going to be talking about Rings of Power. And I just want to say it off the rip, there's going to be a lot of spoilers when we get to that part of the show. So if you have not watched every single episode of the Amazon series, make sure you go watch that before you listen to our commentary on it, because you don't want to ruin anything for you, because holy shit, there's some awesome stuff in here. And of course, if you're coming across us on Twitter, Docs, Twitch, or YouTube, make sure you go find our audio channel, whether that's Apple, Spotify, Geeks Worldwide Radio's, SoundCloud, wherever you listen to podcasts. Find us there. Leave a rating, leave a review, 5 stars, please, and subscribe to the show. It helps us out a ton. And make sure, if you know another comic book fan, tell them about us. We have a lot of big time guests on the show. I feel like I'm putting it mildly at that point, Joe, because you put out that video last week, some awesome stuff, and we're just going to keep doing it over and over. Not this week, but we're going to keep doing that moving forward.
You're damn right we are. We've only scratched the surface in our brief history, but that was a lot of fun to put together. And I didn't realize just how many people we've had on. We've averaged more than since we've started the show. I think we've averaged more than a guest a month. That's what it works out to.
Oh yeah, definitely, because it's
fucking
like
wild.
It's flirting with like every other week. I think if you add it all up, all
Yeah.
the weeks, something to that. And I mean, obviously, it's been really heavy throughout 2022. But enough about that. We've done enough fart sniffing today. But make sure you guys go listen to those interviews Kieran Gillen was on last week, and we're gonna just jump right into what's new this week. We're not doing any catching up. No news for us to address at this point. We want to get to the books that are hitting shelves this week, Joe. Why don't you take us through Marvel to start off?
Oh boy. So we've got Moon Knight number 16, Thor 28, X-Men number 16, which I've been enjoying, the Avengers 61, X-Force 33, Darth Vader 28, which I can't wait to read. That's been getting better and better. Carnage number 7, Iron Man 24, Predator number 3, one of Nicholas's books, Midnight Suns number 2, Captain America, Symbol of Truth number 6, Alien number 2, Defenders Beyond number 4, another book that I've been reading that I've been enjoying very much, Shang-Chi and the 10 Rings number 4. Then we have Deadly Neighborhood Spider-Man number 1. I wanted to read this one. I didn't get a chance to read it this week, but that looks interesting.
So is this next one.
Yeah, Crypt of Shadows number 1, and then Miracle Man Silver Age number 1. We highlighted this in our solicit because it's written by Neil Gaiman.
Yes, so there's that. Other than that, though, Miracle Man, not necessarily a character we give too many shits about. But characters we do care about from DC, we're going to be digging into a few titles today. We got The Flash 787, Batman Superman World's Finest issue 8, Flashpoint Beyond issue 6, but I do plan to go back and check that one out. Of course, we got Thomas Wayne's Batman at the center of that story. Catwoman 48, Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths, Young Justice issue 5, friggin' mouthful that Joe doesn't want to write out in its entirety. I don't blame you, sir. DC versus Vampires, All Out War issue 4. In this title, DC versus Vampires, I plan on talking about next week. Finally, you get to talk about a spooky book for this month. I think I'm going to have to go and look at All Out War too, because I didn't realize it's going to be 4 issues long, and there's been such a gap in the main line. What?
So I was going to read Night of the Ghoul this month, but I might be reading something else instead.
I'm going to kill you. Are you shitting me? What the wow. Okay, we're moving on. I Am Batman issue 14, Rogues issue 4, Black Adam issue 5, 2 books that I do need to go back and check out. Aquaman Andromeda issue 3, Titans United Blood Pact issue 2, Scooby-Doo Where Are You 118, Batman One Bad Day The Penguin, Harley Quinn the Animated Series, Legion of the Bats issue 1, GCPD The Blue Wall, issue 1. Also, we have Fables 156. Joe talked about Fables a little while back on the show. Deceased. This is, I believe, the third arc of Tom Taylor's joint, and he had a separate like side story, The Unkillables. But War of the Undead Gods, issue 3. But Joe, there are two books that we want to talk about this week. I actually read one of them before you. I never do that because you're always on top of Nightwing. Issue 97 came out this week, and what a fucking ending.
Oh, geez. I was going to say, let's save this one because of the ending, right? But you jumped into it, so...
I can't help it, Joe. It was nuts. I mean, like,
that was
the whole
fucking crackers.
The whole issue on the whole, again, month to month, this is one of the best titles out there. Not just among the big two. When you're looking at indies too, where Joe and I tend to lean a little bit more, think is superior. Awesome stuff there, but the ending is just like, wait, huh? Like, where is Tom Taylor taking us now? Because I don't know.
Well, so we had a few issues ago where what the fuck's his name? The
Heartless dude?
No, not the Heartless dude.
Why am
what
I
the
blanking?
fuck's his name? The dipshit there with the long hair.
Yeah, the big guy.
Yeah.
Here's the B.
Yeah. Well, anyways,
I'll look.
He figures out Nightwing's identity, and that was a holy shit moment. And you're like, what the like Tom Taylor? Like, ever since we've gotten past the dumb event, Blockbuster. Thank you. That that Nightwing was interjected into. Like it started off strong. We had that pause because of the event, and then each issue, like every week or every month that this comes out, this is my book of the week, or it's right up there. And you could have laid out 1,000 different possible endings for this issue, and I never would have even considered what we got in this book. And I saw that, and I literally said out loud as I'm sitting here reading it yesterday, what the fuck is this? What?
Yeah, it's an amazing ending, and there's like, I just wonder how long can he like not drag it out, but like it stretch this plan out that he has. I just, because there's a few different directions you would think he can go in here, but I have zero clue. It was such an out of left field thing.
It wasn't even out of left field. This was a fucking meteor dropping from the fucking sky. Like, are you shitting me?
Yeah.
Holy cow. If you haven't been reading Nightwing, like, you've got to go back. You've got to pick up. I would just, you don't even have to go back and reread like the entire run. Just start, with the volume when Tom Taylor takes over and get caught up. Yep. Because I've talked about it. I knew I had this feeling. I said this right off the bat. I said, Tom Taylor's run on Nightwing has that same vibe of Chip Zdarsky's run on Daredevil. And it is 100%. They are there. Like, they are, for me, like, there's a lot of books I look forward to each week when they come out. It's Something is Killing the Children. It's Daredevil. It's Nightwing. Like, those three are like just fucking superior right now above everything.
Bear Fighter. I know that's your other.
Well, yeah. Well, that's an autobiography.
This is true. But you bring up Chip Zdarsky in the other book from DC, of course, that we have to touch on. Batman the Knight, issue 10, which, Joe, I know you've been behind on this book for a while. I've been right on top of it the whole time, and you had to catch up for the finale. But, I mean, I got to assume that you crushed the last, like, 2-3 issues that you hadn't read before reading issue 10.
So this is funny because we both felt the same way. So we read issue 10, and then it was the finale. And I go, what? I thought this was supposed to be 12 issues, right? And then you go, yeah, I did too. And then I went back and I looked at like the last, like I went back to the first issue, because sometimes this will happen. A run will get announced, especially by DC, because DC will do like one of whatever on the cover. And so sometimes, like in the first couple issues, might say like one of 12 and end up only being 10 issues, or one of 8 and end up only being 6, whatever. And they just fix it as it goes along. But like so I went back and looked, and nope, 1 of 10. We both can't fucking read. Right?
This is why we need pictures, dude.
This is why we need pictures. But I gotta tell you, like, I loved every issue, every moment of this book, and this final the way he concluded this story, this run, it was perfect.
Mhm.
It was a perfect like Bruce Wayne slash Batman origin. And I don't mean
Mm.
like the pearls and Murder Alley and all that, just like Bruce Wayne becoming Batman origin.
Yep.
It was perfect.
It's just like we said from the jump, there's a lot of little things that like get explained in the course of Chip's story. Just little things that you hear that pop up in the course of Batman's history. He did an outstanding job from start to finish with this thing, and on top of getting Bruce Wayne's development into Batman and really understanding his training step by step and explaining some of those little things, we're also getting the backstory of another character who DC seems to be pretty invested in making some moves with. And to me, that was like the twist that you get with that was I was starting. There was like little breadcrumbs that were kind of leading towards that, and if you knew the character's history beforehand, it would have probably been a little bit easier to pick up sooner. But man, when you get the reveal of who that individual is, it's just it makes it all that much better. So like top notch work from Chip Zdarsky on this series, and of course the artist on this series too was Carmine D. Oh God, Giandomenico. I think I'm
Yeah, I
saying
think
his
so.
name.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think I'm
yeah.
saying the name wrong. I apologize, but definitely if you like Batman and if you were reading like Batman mainline, you're like, do I need to read this? I don't know. If you've been reading Batman mainline, I would definitely pick this one up.
Oh, 100%, 100%.
Then we got Image, and let's see, we have Deadly Class 56, Shirtless Bear Fighter, Volume 2, Issue 3, the Backcracker story, the Marked Halloween Special 3D Issue 1, which I could have sworn we were getting last week, but who knows? We're not reading it, so it's fine. Above Snakes, Issue 4, from friend of the show Sean Lewis. Nita Hawes' Nightmare Blog, from friend of the show, Rodney Barnes. Public Domain, Issue 5, from friend of the show, Chip Zdarsky. Gunslinger Spawn, 13 from hopefully someday friend of the show Todd McFarlane and Brett Booth. Then we also got the Bone Orchid Mythos 10,000 Black Feathers issue 2 from almost friend of the show Jeff Lemire, not to bring up old wounds. And then Joe, we got two books that you wanted to break down quite a bit from Image, Dealer's Choice.
Okay, well, first thing I want to say, real quick, Above Snakes issue 4 was tremendous, absolutely
Mm-hmm.
fantastic. The way that ended, holy smokes! But two books. One, I'll start here with the Deadliest Bouquet issue 3. This book just keeps getting better and better and better. I think after I read this one, I go, this is a high consideration for TLDR.
Yep.
For the show, right? If I haven't mentioned that before,
Yeah.
I'm mentioning it now. I love the characters. The story just the layers keep getting added. The intrigue level keeps increasing.
Correct.
Um, you know, so this is right in my alley because it's a bit of a crime story. We're still trying to figure out who done it, and like I said, there's a lot of layers, a lot of really cool pieces, and I love that it's the story revolves around these three badass sisters, one of
Mm-hmm.
which, the baddest of asses, is named Violet, which is great because I hope my daughter grows up to be a badass. But this girl's a little too badass, so maybe maybe not so much. But this is so far has been an absolutely it's been a great book,
Well,
and
I'll
I
tell
think
you
this
what,
is one
Joe.
that our readers would like.
If there's at all payback involved in this character's backstory, you might want to be careful because Violet's already started down that path based on what you told me.
Yeah.
But I'm very interested to hear more about Deadly Bouquet when it comes time for you to talk about that on the show in 2024
Yeah.
or 2025. Maybe after the last Ronin finishes up. By the way, how weird is that? So everybody, I said share this on the TLDR Instagram page. I go to a bookstore in New Hampshire where I now reside, and I see a hardcover copy of the last Ronin in this bookstore. It's not like Barnes and Noble. It's like a local mom and pop kind of shop, I think, and it's in the religion section. I thought that was very strange.
Yeah, it's not something that I would have put in there, but as friend of the show, Freddie pointed out, as well as Goo from the Mac and Goo program,
Mm,
they both tweeted gifs at us, or gifs at us, however you want to pronounce it,
mm.
of meditating turtles. So there is a
Sure,
zen-ness
this
to
is
the
true.
characters, right? The Tao of the
Yeah,
turtles, if you will, but that's not where I would have put this book.
thank you. Thank
Right.
you. And I only care about your opinion and no one else's. But then not to further delay us because we do want to get to our main topic, but the Silver Coin issue 15 is also out this week, a book that I am wrongfully so far behind on this one
Yeah,
right
you
now.
are.
But how is this issue, Joe?
So this was great. This issue 15 of the Silver Coin. As we know, one of the creators, the main creator, Michael Walsh, who's been the artist on all of these books, also penned this issue. And
Oh.
this is the last issue. It's going on a bit of a hiatus. At the end of the issue,
Ooh.
Michael Walsh announced that him and his wife have just brought a wonderful child into this world. So they're taking some time off, to be a good father to his
Mm.
child. So this book was excellent because what this arc has been doing, it's been a little bit more, there's been a little bit more of a linear story to it, whereas
Mm.
before it's been very anthology like, with the overarching story of just the coin being the common denominator, I should say, between all the various stories. But this arc really started to tie things together, started to pull the threads a little bit. And what this issue did was, by wrapping up the arc, it reflected back and it looked back at a lot of the pivotal moments
Mm.
from the first few arcs. And we got a fucking reappearance of the goddamn eye worms in this issue.
Oh no. Ugh.
It was one panel, but like that, it was,
Oh.
whether we liked it or not, was an iconic issue. But like, it was great. I don't want to really say anything without spoiling it, but it did a really good job of sort of pulling some of those threads together and showing you just the history, again, more history of this coin, how they all fit, how all these individual stories, kind of fit together. So, spooky as shit. Fantastic book. It's on Hoopla. The first two volumes, I believe, are on Hoopla. So if you can't find it at your local comic book shop and you have Hoopla, I highly, highly, highly recommend grabbing, reading the first two volumes on that.
It's almost like Walsh has been listening to the show the whole time and like brought back the one thing that we didn't want to have back in the Silver
Right.
Coin. Unreal. But all right, let's fly through some of these other ones because we have one last book that we want to highlight from AWA, which we will save for last. From Skybound, also prints through Image, The Walking Dead Deluxe issue 49, Lego Ninjago Garmageddon issue 5, can't miss stuff. Boom, Wind, The Throne in the Sky issue 3, all new Firefly issue 9. Eve, Children of the Moon, issue 1. This is a Boom issue 1, Joe, but I don't know if this is one that.
So I've read Eve. The first is This is a second arc, right?
Ah.
And I read Eve, and it was fine. It was
Hmm.
a little heavy-handed with the environmental stuff. Not that I'm against the environment, but like, I
Hmm.
don't necessarily always want to be preached to.
Hmm.
But I'm gonna. I am gonna. Highlight in blue because I will give it a shot. But
Okay.
like, it was a fine. It was a fine book.
Okay. One book that I know is more than fine is Parasomnia, The Dreaming God. Issue 3 of that is out this week from friend of the show, Cullen Bunn, of course, via Dark Horse. Then we got Shaolin Cowboy, Cruel to Be Kin, issue 6. Hellboy in Love, issue 1. I think this is what the David Harbour movie was based upon. Castle Full of Blackbirds, issue 2. Then we got IDW True Cult, issue 3, which, of course, Cult and True, the U's are V's. Still don't get that. But anyways, Sonic the Hedgehog, Scrapnik Island, issue 1, Crashing, issue 2, Transformers, Best of Grimlock, issue 1.
So Sonic made me think of this because Violet's been in Sonic the Hedgehog lately.
Mm.
But remember Mega Man way back when, in my
Oh,
big
yep.
issue with Mega
Yep.
Man, right?
Mm-hmm.
The long fucking neck.
Yep.
Well, when we were in Canada, one of the Canadian channels up there, the Canadian cartoon channels, had a Mega Man fully charged cartoon, and it's the Mega Man with the long fucking neck. Guess who loves it?
Violet, no.
Swaggins loves it.
No.
Thankfully, we can't get it here in this
Oh.
state unless I want to pay $30 for the season. So
Oh, yeah. Hell no. $30.
yeah. Yeah, she was obsessed with it. Every time we put this, can you see if Mega Man is on? Look for Mega Man. I'm going, oh no, it stinks.
You gotta just show her the old stuff, man. You gotta get her the good
Yeah,
stuff. Oh god, I mean,
yeah,
I like hearing shit into Mega Man, but that
yeah,
stuff, no, thank you. Didn't know also that that was the art style for one of the shows. Now that's brutal news. Uh,
terrible.
Dynamite, we got Immortal Red Sonia issue 7, Source Point Press Hyper Aware issue 1, Postmasters issue 1, Heaven's Rejects issue 2. Vault, we got the 4th issue of Mindset. And then, Joe, last and most certainly not least, AWA, we got Sacrament issue 3 out this week. What'd you think?
When did you start reading this book? Like, have you been reading it all along, or did you just get caught up on it?
I just got caught up. Yes, I just.
Isn't it everything I said it was?
It is everything you said it was and more. It is like spot on description by you. So good. Like this was such an and like it's infuriating in the right ways and it's also like fucked up in awesome ways. It's you sold it well and it's even better and it reads so quickly throughout all of it. So I mean, there's a lot of details to take in, but it's so smooth. And the end of this 3rd issue, it's like, whoa, they get really fucked up. Like they really, like they haven't like it makes sense, but they're like pushing certain buttons, and then you get to the end, and it's like, oh, well, all right, we took things there, and this next issue, I'm very excited for this. I'm on one hand, I wish I hadn't been waiting so long, but at the same time, I'm kind of glad I got to binge 3 issues.
I mean, this is a perfect Nick Friar book because it's horror, it's religion. It's got a lot. This issue was heavy on the demonic stuff, and man, there was a few panels where I go, oh, okay, all right, and then I'm like, wait a second, and then so it's just so good and it's so well written, and I mean, like, as soon as I read the first issue, I knew this was a book for you. I mean, if you're into horror, if you're into, the demonic stuff and like I say religion, but like only in the sense like it's got to deal with
as a vehicle,
right, exactly, right. The priest and trying to exorcise the demon, things like that. Like, it's such a good story where I have no idea where this is going to go.
100%.
But the characters are so great. Father Voss is so flawed. I love it. The everything about it. It's just, this is a perfect book. I'm glad you finally caught up on it because I, on one hand, really wanted to talk about it on the show, but on the second hand, like, I've made you wait a year for Night of the Ghoul. I couldn't do the same for this.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I think when it comes to religion, like I do find some of the commentary that can come with it interesting, and there is that in Sacrament, of course, because you're dealing with a priest and his internal struggles. But at the same time, that's the book is more just about him and his internal struggles and beliefs in himself and everything he's done throughout the course of his life. And then the religion happens to be the vehicle that's being used here. And I always find that very interesting because you can really push buttons there that things you'll get like real fucked up real fast. And then we bring in demonic stuff. That shit, like, there's no like. I love that stuff.
Yeah, this issue kicked that series up to an 11. I mean, it was tremendous.
Absolutely must read stuff. I don't know. I actually forgot to check if it's a 4-issue series or if it's a 5-issue series. But I would.
AWA typically does 5-issue series, but
yeah, this one, it just felt like for some reason that this one could possibly go and end right here. It's 5 issues. There we go. It's 5 issues. So it makes sense still either way. But that is it for what's new this week, Joe. And I got to say, we did a pretty good job of moving today because we do have a guest waiting backstage. So I don't know if you want to tell the people at all who's going to be joining us.
Well, if you're familiar, if you're on Twitter and you're familiar with the DSG, you will know our next guest as such creators as Ghost Mouse, his obsession with Shrek, and his wonderful Ewan McGregor masks, or I should say, we'll just call them Obi-Wan masks because they're not Ewan McGregor masks. I would like to introduce for the first time live on the DSG and for your ear holes, the one and only, the other one and only Billy D.
Hello there. Hello there.
Hello there.
Hello there. How you doing, Billy?
Wait, I thought this was a Star Wars podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no. Did you not do any prep today? Shit.
No. Well, we'll figure it out.
Okay. Yeah, we'll improvise. But we do half the time anyways. But we, of course, are having Billy D on to talk about Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, Season 1, which aired on Amazon Prime, which we did see throughout the course of it all that there were, I think it's safe to say going in, we all had some apprehension about this show. We've seen with the ratings that it's kind of gotten panned by some people for reasons that I think the three of us don't necessarily agree with, and we'll get into our thoughts on it, fairly early on, Joe. But I actually, why don't you kick us off with your overall thoughts on this series?
So this was, I mean, how long have we been waiting for the show now? I mean, it's been a few years since it was
Yeah.
first announced,
Yeah.
and Amazon spent a ton of money.
Mhm.
And what they got for their money was about 30 pages worth of material from the Silmarillion they were allowed to use. So with all that money spent, though, you could tell it went into the production value. This show was absolutely stunning to watch. It was just a visual masterpiece. It really was. And what they had to work with and what they gave us, I thought was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it's something like when you kind of try and whittle it down to what it is they were actually able to work with. We were talking about it before, and I think Billy, you were saying that or Joe, I don't know which one you said, the Silmarillion, like we had like 30 pages of that to work with.
Yeah.
What'd you end up thinking of it all, Billy?
I think the production value was crazy. I think it was, what was it, something like 500 million they spent on this or more.
Yeah.
Is that what it
And
was?
you can really feel it in some of those big shots. And I'm like a big practical effects sucker, so you could really see a lot of this. Felt like real stuff that they were real places they were in that they actually built, instead of like we were talking about with The Hobbit, where they kind of went full on with the CGI. But this one really felt like the costumes, they were handmade. Everybody looked different. Everybody had unique things, and I think they put the money in the good spot.
Yeah.
I wanted to say as a quick side note, Billy, I didn't realize you were the creator of Mouse Ghost. I randomly will say that shit all the time around Lauren. She has no idea what it means, but she likes it. Every time I saw it, it's just, that's gold right there. Gold.
I think that was the original Photoshop.
No mouse ghosts in this series, but we do get a lot of people who we're familiar with from Lord of the Rings lore, which I thought was. I'm thinking, okay, you're going to bring these characters in. We haven't seen them in a while. Timeline stuff. That was kind of the one thing that got seemingly muddied up a little bit, but still, they weren't able to use a whole lot, and they went and just, I mean, they did so much with the origins of these characters, and I was blown away. The biggest thing for me, and again, a reminder for everybody, we are going to be spoiler heavy throughout this conversation.
Oh, yes.
The twist that we get in this show, I was like dying the entire time. What's going on with the stranger, who we find out who we believe we find out who it is later. If they don't tell us it directly, but follow your nose and you'll know. Yes. But the way they handled that and what it did to hide another character's reveal, I don't want to dig into it too much, but that to me is some of the best, like I guess when you're talking about twist deliveries, one of the best jobs that we've ever seen.
Well, that's what this show has done, and what we've been missing from the Marvel shows, for example, right? Like when WandaVision came out, like it was week to week, and it gave us that water cooler talk, like Game of Thrones did in its prime, right? And so, what the MCU has really failed to deliver on that since WandaVision, and now with this show and Rings of Power, the way they delivered each episode, the breadcrumbs that they gave you, the okey dokes, if you will, like the whole time, like even when we spoke with Kieran Gillen, we talked about this at the end of the show there, like we all kind of had our ideas and theories, but like you don't know, like Billy and I have been talking about this all, every episode, since it's come out, and you just talk about, oh, we think it's this, oh, we think it's that, and that is what's exciting. One of the most exciting things about the show, I should say, that we haven't had, I think, from a lot of shows previously. It's like, oh, like I haven't watched She-Hulk. I'll just wait and I'll just binge it and watch it later. Like it, like I don't like. I'm missing that anticipation like week to week, and this show delivered it. And as you said, Nick, it really did a great job of like kind of burying the lead a little bit, burying some things until boom, when you get those final reveals.
Yeah, we get a ton of, I mean, obviously there's all the intrigue about Sauron. There's intrigue about other characters. And another thing I know you have jotted down in all this show, we get the origin of Mordor in Mount Doom. I didn't see, that was like, I think when when you look at the map, I'm curious if you thought this at all, Billy, on the map, you see where the Southlands are located. And I was like, this is either like Gondor or like Osgiliath, or then you're starting to flirt with Mordor territory. Did you ever see it coming that that's what they were going for?
Joe was asking me the name of the village was Hordorn. Hordorn? I think you
Hodor?
asked. Yeah, not Hodor.
Hold on. Hold on. Hold on.
Hordorn. That's the village they went to in episode 1 that was all burned out and all broken, and that must have been the one that the orcs attacked first. And Joe's like, he texted me after that, and he's like, I think we're in Mordor.
Oh, wow.
That was early. That was like
Wow.
episode 1.
That
I had to
is
look up the village, but
Yeah,
he
it
got
was
it
one of
real
those
early.
things. And the reason why I did that, and that's again another one of the things that this show did well, and we talk about the visuals, right? Because it's not just the stunning landscapes and everything that the set pieces that we get, but like what the show did really well was it gave you great visuals of like teases of things. Like there was just a shot where we're in this village and it's of sort of one of the towers and it's just got a light in it, but the camera angle kind of from down and up looking at it almost sort of looked like the tower with the Eye of Sauron, right? It had like I saw that, and that's the imagery that was evoked when I saw that. And they did that with other things too throughout this series. Where like you see these little things. It's like way back when the Phantom Menace came out, and or it might have been Attack of the Clones, but there was a movie poster, right, where it showed little Annie, it was Phantom Menace, little Annie standing in the sand by Uncle Owen's hut or whatever, and the shadow just made it look like Darth Vader, like imagery like that, which is so great. We get a lot of that. Right.
Oh, that part on the boat at the end, the shadow with you turn around and you get the opposite, and it's Sauron standing next to Galadriel.
It's amazing. I mean, when you look at what we like most and the least, I mean, I think, for me, the obvious thing is like how they handled Sauron. I mean, the way you hide him in plain sight the entire time. Now, I will say, Billy, I was telling Joe this, that there was a point where I asked myself when Halbrand gets his his guild coin or whatever the heck that thing is. Yeah. I wondered, what if they go and decide, like they make it where Halbrand's actually Sauron, or like his right hand man, something to that level, and he was just kind of trying to go away and retire and do his thing because they'd failed and whatever, and he just like wanted to do his own thing, and then Galadriel and company ended up being their own worst enemy and awakened the beast. Then I saw a meme somewhere online that said, "Oh, Halbrand might be the king under the mountain," which would have been cool, but totally took me off the scent. So I was able to really enjoy this reveal to the full extent. But he was one of my favorite characters. And then Galadriel, I'd say 1-2 punch for me. They were outstanding. But I know Joe felt differently, and I'm kind of stunned by your characters, or one of them at least.
So real quick on that one with Halbrand, I did text Joe very early and said I think he could be the Witch King. He's definitely some sort of Nazgul, because they're focusing on this one like man, like men, king of men, that thing.
So you thought of that first then, not Joe, because that's interesting. It was positioned to me a little differently. That somebody else came up with that idea, the Witch King idea.
Wow. I mean, I don't know.
No, Billy sold me on it.
Kind of had the same. Yeah, exactly.
Billy sold me on it because once Billy mentioned it, I go, I think you might be right, or he might be one. Like he's either the like. At first, we were both kind of kicking around the idea of he's one of the ring wraiths. I think that's where it started. And then as we start to get more Halbrand, and Billy's like, I think he might be the Witch King. And I go, you know what? I think you're onto something, because the thing with Halbrand, as we were first introduced to him, and then, as we see more and more of him throughout, the series, is like you said, Nick, right? They did a great job of hiding this character in plain sight. But like, when I think of Sauron, right, because
he's the deceiver.
He's a tricksy one, right? He's a tricksy little bastard. But like for me, again, talk about evoking imagery. Like Sauron is this big sort of hulking figure, and Halbrand is just sort of a dude.
Yeah.
Right. So like this whole
time, he's Boromir's uncle.
Right, exactly. So that's why the idea when Billy is like, I think this guy might be the Witch King. I go, yeah, that actually makes sense, because to me, initially, he didn't seem like an intimidating enough character, a maniacal enough character. We know what we know of Sauron. He's a fucking real evil bastard, right? And he's hulking, and he demands this presence, and And that was something that was lacking, but I think that was the brilliance of how they pulled it off.
Yeah.
And especially in that last episode when all of a sudden he goes from being Halbrand, and then when the switch flips and the way he's just able to take control of everything, you're like, oh fuck, he really is one evil son of a bitch.
Yeah. He does not mess around. And the one thing too with that last episode, I know, Joe, that you had issues with the Elven rings, and I'm not going to sit here and defend how they looked, but I've wondered for a while now, like since first seeing the movies. I think I saw the first movie and then read the books after that. I was like, wait a minute, he made these rings. This bad dude made all these rings, and somehow they were all deceived. Like, how does that happen to all of these people? I get the men, but how does it happen to the elves and the dwarfs? Like, really? But they did an outstanding job of explaining how he deceived them and was able and still made sure that the elves got their rings. I was blown away when I saw that.
Well, he was helping them, and through helping them, that's how he kind of got his fingers in there, and that's how he made it out to be like, oh, well, how can we fix that? Oh, why don't you try this? And it's like that's how he knew, because he knew they want to finish the job. Celebrimbor wants to get them done, so he knows if he just keeps giving them little breadcrumbs, they'll do it themselves.
And what were some of the things that you ended up liking the most, or least, I guess, too? Because I know Joe's itching to talk about one character that he did not like.
So I think something I didn't like early was what they were doing with the hobbits. I think they saved it at the end, but I think the beginning, they seemed like they were going to make them kind of annoying, more Merry and Pippins. And for the first 3 or 4 episodes, they kind of were. But I think they saved them at the end when they came in to help the stranger, and they made them more relatable. It was almost like they're making them a little too silly.
Yeah, because that was the thing for me, because that was one of the big things I hated from Obi-Wan was little Leia, right? And like these child actors like acting, and like you taking a 10-year-old and giving her the personality of a fucking 40-year-old. Like it's just not believable. So when we first are introduced to the Harfoots, especially Nori, I'm thinking, oh, are we gonna follow this trope of making this younger type character be like, acting beyond her years? And so we get that introduction in the first episode, but the Harfoots grew, and they weren't annoying. They're hobbits. Right, we are seeing the ancestors here of the hobbits, and I really started to, she annoyed me a little bit at times, but like not like immensely, you know what I mean? But I thought she was, I thought I liked her friend. I thought her friend was awesome. Like she was great. It's like, always just trying to like get your fucking shit together. Come on, But the Harfoots were great, and I love that. I love that they're, Nori, she's a Brandyfoot. I've talked to you guys about this a ton. Like, Brandyfoot, Brandy Buck, right? I think we're seeing, right. Yeah. We're seeing the beginning lineage to, Peregrine Took and Mary Brandybuck and Bilbo Baggins, right? Because they're all related. They're all cousins. And I think we're getting that, family tree starting to, blossom here. So, they didn't, and they were fine. They were nothing that I hated, or they weren't my most favorite. But I'll tell you who fucking stinks. Who stinks? I got 2 people on my list. One is Theo.
Yeah,
fucking stinks. Now, granted, by the end, his arc, he did become a sympathetic character, and we'll talk about some theories that Billy and I were throwing around about Theo earlier. But like, there's something about his dumb face that just annoyed the shit out of me. Looking mopey, emo ass Theo. Get the fuck out of here, you dumb shit. You're going to fucking ruin it for everyone with your fucking obsession with that goddamn sword. And, you felt bad for him, towards the end. And then Nick and I, we had a text conversation back and forth about Isildur. Right. And so we
got a little contentious, some would say, too.
It did. Well, so I think what our problem was a definition between weak and soft. And so the Isildur that we get in this show is a fucking pussy. He stinks.
He stinks.
He stinks.
He's still learning, though. He's supposed to be very young.
Well, that's the thing. We have to the Duradine, right, or the Duradine, right?
Dunedain.
They live long,
You're
long
one of the
lives, right?
Dunedain.
But like,
Bless the long life.
right? But like, he's very soft in this.
Yeah.
He just fucking stinks. He can't do anything right, and the Isildur, when you get the lore from the Lord of the Rings from the books, he's weak. He's weak-minded. Like he chops off Sauron's hand, he gets the ring, and like in the movie, again, this is another thing. I've been re-listening to the audiobook. It's like in the movie, it's like, oh, he chops off the ring, gets it, and then loses it like 3 days later. No, like 20 years or something, like 40 years passes, between when he finally loses the ring. But like he is very weak-minded because he does let the ring sort of take over him, whereas someone like Frodo, right, and Bilbo don't. So like for me, that's weak. It's not soft because I think of Isildur, I think of a warrior. He's out there. I mean, he's the one that fucking killed Sauron, right? But the show makes him seem like a goddamn sissy.
So this is for me though. When we talk about like he took out Sauron, but it was like in a last moment of desperation. In like, yeah, hey, it was basically like Adam Dunn going up there, and it was like he just hit a home run. It's going to happen once in a while. You take big hacks, but for me, I don't think it's just in the end. I don't think it's that much of a stretch to go from being weak-minded to then being soft, because at the same time, while he is soft throughout all of this, I feel like there's like a part of that is a level of weakness on his end. So for me, like at first I was like, geez, he really friggin' stinks. And then I thought about it and I was like, no, you know what? This actually kind of does make sense for Isildur. Like he kind of should be a little bit of a little lame. So I didn't like, it didn't bother me as much, but he is definitely still one of my least favorite characters, just because in general he's just kind of a loser, like Theo. But number one for me, guys, actually another honorable mention, Kemen, who is Farazan's son, and I'm sure those names mean nothing. Kemen is the guy who is the kid who hits on Isildur.
Oh yeah.
He stinks. Only there for a little bit, so he can't be my number one. But my number one with a bullet is fucking Gil-galad. He stinks. He is the biggest asshole, condescending piece of shit. Oh my god, get out of here with him. He was a good addition to the story and everything, but I did not know this guy was that brutal. My word.
But you got to remember the elves are kind of think of themselves as better now, very stuck up, and this is thousands of years before we see them in the movies when they're actually friendly with people. This is when they think they're basically gods walking around. So he doesn't. It fits with the character.
Sure.
He stinks, but it fits with his character.
Yes, I think if you look at all the Gil-galad, he is what he is, and like I think he fit for the story. Everything made sense. Still like infuriating. Isildur, like I can understand where like there's a little bit of is that really what he should have been like as a kid? I can understand that, but still I think he fits. Theo is he's more of a plot device, I think, than anybody else. And then like Kemen's probably like one of the dudes you could probably have done without. I mean, it does lead to some of the Palantir stuff, I think. But
is he not dead? Did he die on the boat?
Did he go with them overseas?
No. Remember when they were he got
blew
caught
up the
on
boat to try and prevent them from going to Middle
Earth.
Did he die on the boat, or did
he got saved?
He got saved. Okay.
Yeah, wasn't it Isildur that saved him?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know he found him. He discovered him. I don't know.
Yeah, and he pulled him ashore. Yeah, he pulled him ashore.
Oh,
So I forgot. Oh my god, I forgot about the whole ship's blowing up. Yeah, so he's pretty friggin' brutal. Like that guy was awful. But I actually didn't hate the Harfoots either, too. And I'm usually a very anti-Hobbit guy, but I gotta say, my highlight of this conversation already, Joe, is you saying that the number 2 Hobbit is your favorite. You are nothing, if nothing else, you are consistent. Unbelievable.
That's right. Sam. That's my Sam. Well, you're gonna love it. Nick is giving me shit about this since I stated it, but like, we so like, okay, the characters that I thought stunk, like that's the thing. Like they didn't like take away from the show. It's not like they make the show. It's just like that's what you want. You want characters that you loathe and detest, and you want characters, that you love. So for me, some of my favorite, other than like just the finale, like my favorite elements of this show was that whenever you had Elrond and Durin together, right?
Yeah.
Because they were just like two best buddies, right? And they hadn't seen each other in a long time, and it was contentious at first, but like I found that storyline to be very compelling. I loved seeing the dwarves actually living in the mountains for once instead of just being nomads. And And
That's fair.
I love that relationship, between those two. Now, like Elrond, you say, Joe, Doc, Elrond was kind of lame. He was a goody two shoes. Yeah, those are
He's
the
fine.
characters I like. I like Superman. He's one of my favorite.
This
I'm a
is
Superman
true.
guy, right?
This is true. Yeah.
So I
You are
love
kind of lame.
the virtuousness of Elrond. I always have, right? He's and what I love about Elrond is that we're seeing sort of like how his character develops, and I'm looking forward to when him and Gandalf will eventually meet and become friends and all that. Like, and so the stuff with the dwarves I loved. And again, another thing that Billy nailed early on was, we first see that shot of the dwarves opening up the chest, and you just see this like bright light gleaming out.
Yeah.
I thought it was the Arkenstone.
Yeah,
that
so
was
did
my
I.
first thought, right? And Billy goes,
Yeah.
I think that's Mithril. And I was talking to my old man when
Damn.
we were up in Canton. He goes, yeah. How did you not know that was Mithril? I go,
What?
What do
No
you mean?
way.
Arkenstone. That was the whole reason why they went out in the fucking Hobbit to the Misty fucking Mountains.
That's an amazing pull. And Billy, before we go to your favorite characters, and I know I see another note too that you there's a certain individual that pops up later on that we only see for one moment that I was very excited about. But on the Elrond front, Joe, one thing as you're talking about it that kind of convinced me that I feel a little bit better about how they handled him, because again I'm thinking he's fine, whatever. And seeing what Hugo Weaving did with the character, he's kind of like he's a bit more of an asshole there, but like that's what I know Elrond to be. Seeing how he's so fair and trying to respect others and do right by everybody in this story, it's like, oh, that totally makes sense, because he tried to do this and then so many people screwed him over the years. So now he's like, no, I'm just going to be hard and I'm not going to take any shit from anybody anymore. And that's how we get the Hugo Weaving. So I'm very excited for his development over the however many seasons we get. But he was not among your favorite characters, right, Billy?
Which one?
Elrond.
I didn't have him on there.
Okay. Who you got for me?
I have, I think me and Joe share a similar first one is younger Durin.
Yeah, not Papa Durin, not Grandpa.
Not Papa Durin. Papa Durin is on my least favorite.
Fifth, I think.
Like a dick.
Oh yeah, he stinks.
Oh yeah, throw him on the list of people who fucking stink.
Yeah.
It's not yours anymore. Shut up.
Yeah. But Prince Durin, he seemed really cool. He seemed like a guy you could have a beer with.
Yeah, I like him. I'm surprised you got Elendil on your list at number 2.
I really like Elendil, not for maybe what he does here, and there was a part of one of the later episodes that makes me kind of wonder when he starts crying. But but just for what he's gonna do. I mean, we can talk about that after, but where we want it to go. But he needs to basically bring his whole culture to a new place, establish new cities, and I kind of like that, the way that character was playing.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, he definitely
wasn't bad. Galadriel too, but
of course,
yeah.
Galadriel's amazing. Absolutely, a character that I never would have thought I said that I absolutely love. Like just coming in, I was like, oh, they're gonna go with Galadriel and make her a badass. Okay, cool, and it's definitely like mentioned in the lore. Fine, but I never would have thought like over the years that would be. In seeing some of the things like what Sauron says to her at the end, and he says like you match it up to that like moment where Frodo tries to give her the ring in the Fellowship of the Ring. Saw that like so much cool stuff out there social media wise when it comes to this series and looking back at the movies. Another thing that you noted though, Billy, before we get to some of the predictions for season 2, the Balrog. I was amped when I saw that we saw the character, but then it's like that's it. Nothing else. No more mention of
we didn't get anything.
What the fuck?
Yeah. That was such an awesome visual. Again, that's another like little thing they just sort of dropped in here, and you just see that and you go, oh, and so you're kind of thinking like, you're expecting this to come back into play later in the series, so we don't get that again at the end of season 1, but we know the fucker's there, and we know what he's capable of.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Destroy the whole place.
Yep.
He is. Yeah, I am very excited for that. And speaking of looking forward to predictions, since Billy, you seem to own a Palantir, what do you got for me?
So we already talked about the Halbrand. I texted Joe. We talked about that with him being a Witch King, or at least a Nazgul. I feel like floating around online though, people were like, "Oh, he's Sauron. He's Sauron." But that could just be because they just have one bad guy in their head and they're just going to point to him.
Well, yeah, because I remember seeing rumors of like, is the stranger here's the evidence that the stranger is Sauron. Here's the evidence that Halbrand is Sauron. Here's the evidence that what the evil fucking orc dude, right?
Adar.
Adar, thank you, right?
Adar.
Is Sauron, right?
Adar.
And so like that again, that's like what the
Adar.
show did. They did a great job of like getting you to think like there's a lot of possibilities of who Sauron is, and maybe it's none of these characters. Maybe they're really gonna fucking okey doke us, and it's not going to be any of them, and we won't get them in season 1.
I'll tell you what, they did. Like Adar was another character who like threw me off because like, oh, this has got to be Sauron then. And then
when he had the gauntlet, right?
Yep. And then when you see him and Halbrand cross paths too, it's like he's like, you don't remember me? And I'm like, this doesn't feel like you killed my family and I'm gonna like you took everything from me and like I don't even know who you are. It's not that. It's like, oh, this is what
I didn't even think of that. That just clicked.
Wow. Yeah,
that's good. Okay.
Yeah. So there was something else behind that. So it wasn't setting off the alarms for me, but it's like, okay, we know that Halbrand said that he did some bad shit. So he definitely more than likely worked with this guy. Like now we kind of have an idea to the level, but I'm very excited for that what we got going forward there. Cause like he said to Galadriel, like you helped me defeat my enemies. But Joe, what are some other predictions that you got right or wrong?
So I mentioned this a little while ago. I'm still convinced Brandyfoots, they are the forefathers to Bilbo, to the Brandy Bucks, Brandyfoots, right? Like that it feels so right and it feels so perfect because like when we see with Nori, one of the things I liked most about her character was like she is adventurous, right? And she's unlike the rest of the Harfoots where she we see her at the end going off with with the stranger and wanting to just go into great lengths to help him throughout. And what we know about the Tooks and the Brandy Bucks and especially Bilbo, right, is that they are sort of they're a different sort of breed of hobbit, right? They are adventurous. Bilbo's mom, Belladonna Took, it was her father, right, that could, invented the game of golf and could ride a pony, right, and things like that. Like there's this adventurous spirit there. So, oh, look at this. We are getting spammed by the porn bots, baby.
I just saw that. Wow.
Yeah, all right. The Lord of the Rings talks getting the people horny.
Apparently.
But like that like for me, like I love seeing that, but also like there was this feeling like at first is the stranger Sauron, but I never really felt that. For me, like Billy and I, again, we were talking about like we felt like the stranger was a wizard. Obviously, we knew he was a wizard, but like, was he really Gandalf, right? Because we know from Tolkien, right, the wizards, the Isatars don't come in until the third age, and we know that this show takes place initially in the second age, so it felt a little early to be getting Gandalf or Saruman or something like that. But I feel like they're getting a little loosey goosey here with the timeline, which I don't have a problem with. And so, like, the more I started thinking about it, and then again talking with my old man because he was 100% convinced it was Gandalf, I start thinking, this is they're planting the seeds. This is why Gandalf loves hobbits so much.
Yes,
right. And this is why he chose Bilbo, the Brandyfoots, right? Brandy Bucks, Tooks, Baggins. There's a lineage there. He's been with these people throughout his entirety of time so far on Middle Earth. He knows them well.
Yeah,
and it just feels so perfect.
It feels like when we were talking about Batman the night before, right, with from Chip Zdarsky, right? It feels like a similar kind of thing what was done here throughout the course of this series, where like you're filling these like little holes, things that you didn't necessarily think you need to have explained, but they are getting explained, like with Gandalf, like with Mordor, and they did a really good job with all of it. And with Gandalf, like I thought from the jump, like this. Okay, it's got to be one of the wizards. See, I was with you guys, but upon like looking things up, it's like, oh no, like you said, Joe, they didn't come into the mix till later. But then as I did a little more research, I started seeing like I don't know if it was Reddit or whatever, but people started saying, well, like with a lot of Tolkien stuff, there's some things that didn't get finished, and I guess there's some ways where he said like they came sooner than everybody else has been saying
Well,
right now.
Gillen mentioned this when we talked with him, right? Like there is like Tolkien does contradict himself at
Yep.
times.
I mean,
And
it's
then
got so much stuff. It only makes sense.
Yeah.
Back
Yeah,
when a time where you didn't have fact
Yeah.
checkers like you do now, or
Right.
podcasters like us.
and Billy had some good some
Punching
good
there.
thoughts about Gandalf, or about the stranger, I should say.
The stranger, that thing in the first episode, found the
Oh, no.
fortune. She found some
Is he skipping out on you,
fire
Joe?
or something. And it was
Yeah, a little bit.
cold.
Yeah.
Billy, your internet connection is not ideal right now. I don't know how you do. Well, you don't need that for Photoshop, but let's see if we can maybe take your iPhone off your Wi-Fi or something like that. It usually works for me.
While Billy gets himself settled here, there we one of the things he mentioned to me, because he's like, oh, I don't know, like, again, one of the things they did to throw us off, the okey dokus, right, was that scene where the stranger's got his hand in the water and he starts to freeze it, and he's I don't know if he's trying to regenerate himself or whatever, but you get that flash, right, and you see like the fire and what looks like the eye of Sauron, right?
Yeah.
And what the shit is this?
Yep.
And then we get what we eventually get in the finale.
Mhm.
You back, Billy?
I think so.
Okay.
All right, let's try that again.
So yeah, with the fire, they were talking about the fire in that fortress in the beginning, that it was cold, and then the stranger fell and the hobbits found him, and she said, oh, don't burn yourself, but it was cold. So that's like, but that could have also been them very early trying to plant the seed to make us think that he's Sauron.
Yeah. And then Billy also had a great idea. Like, we've gotten many iterations of Gandalf, with Gandalf the Gray, Gandalf the White. So maybe this is like Gandalf the Off-White, or eggshell white Gandalf,
Eggshell
right?
white Gandalf.
Bone cream.
Right. Yeah, right. Like, okay, is this like not the Gandalf that we come to know, but is this just an earlier version of him before he levels up, collects his XP, and advances there? Yeah.
But yeah, there was definitely, but that's what was so awesome about this whole series in the end, is like with Gandalf, like there is some predictability, but they plant enough seeds where it's like, yeah, like why are they taking so long? Like, what are they trying to hide? And it was something totally unrelated to Gandalf. And well, no, I guess kind of related, but on the opposite end of the spectrum. And those crazy looking, like the Eminem looking chick,
the Slim Shadys.
Oh, Slim Shadys.
The Slim Shadys. Yeah. They were something else. They were freaky as shit, man.
They were fucking merciless.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what,
shit.
I love the paradox of like you see them and it's like, okay, yeah, they're hard and they're tough, but you think, okay, they're all draped in white, like the light and everything like that is supposed to be like means they're good, right? Historically, it always kind of means that sort of thing. It's like, nope, they're as bad as it gets.
Which is some great foreshadowing when you think of Saruman.
Oh,
right.
Wow.
That's some great foreshadowing there, right? Seeing
Good
Saruman.
call.
So seeing like these, these wizards, they can be, bright, white, powerful, right? But then they're just dark and as evil as Sauron is. And so, like, again, they evoke great imagery here. And I look at them and I think, oh, Saruman.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, when we look at things where we're talking obviously a lot of great stuff, and obviously we've had a few complaints here, but I think we talk about things that didn't hit on the mark. I mean, it's pretty. You guys, I think, have spelled it out pretty well. Isildur, Theo. I'd say more Theo than Isildur necessarily. Billy, I know you talked about the early stuff with the hobbits, but was there anything that you wanted to add to any of that?
There was one thing you mentioned him. I feel like everything that they were trying to do with what's his name, Farazan or Faison.
Oh, yeah.
They're trying to make it like a Game of Thrones political intrigue type of thing, and I feel like none of that worked at all.
Yeah. Yeah, there was definitely some stuff in Numenor that I was like, and he was probably at the center of it most. Joe, did you have anything on this front?
Yeah, I think Billy and I kind of share this sentiment too. Like going back to Isildur, not so much talking about his character, because, the more I talk to you about it, the more I think of it like, yeah, right, like. It's a me thing, because I have this image and portrayal of Isildur, but that's exactly who he is when you break it down. But I think the issue that Billy and I had also was the way his arc went in the first season, because it just sort of ended and then they don't ever come back to him, right? Mm-hmm. And I wish that they had given us like even just 5 seconds, right? Like, because we know he's alive, right? Like. that's the thing with this show and with prequels in general. Like if there's characters that well, you know what the outcome is. So it doesn't really make much sense to make it appear as though he's dead or right. Like, so give us a little something to where like he is going to, become the start of the second season. I felt like that was one thing where they just sort of like cut and then just then they needed to address. But like other than that, that was like the one thing I felt like the mark they really kind of missed was just his overall arc in the first season.
So Isildur, as we're going through it, okay, he's gone at the moment. We obviously know he's coming back. Second season. Let's assume it's going to be 8 episodes for the second season, right?
Yeah.
Before or after the 4th episode? When does Isildur show up, Billy? Before or after the 4th episode?
It has to be before. If he's not, better be in the first episode.
I think it's after.
Better be crawling out of the rubble, wherever the hell they left him.
Maybe it'll be right at the 4th, but that's going to be our push on this one. Joe, where do you think?
When he's going to make his return?
Yep.
I think they've got to start off with it. It's got to be. I think they've got to start off with that because, and we can sort of segue this into what we're looking forward, to season 2 before we get to a couple of the last other topics. But like we know that some shit's going to happen with Numenor. Right, like right. We know something's gonna happen, and we know that the again the imagery of Numenor and the way it looks to Gondor with the way the buildings are shaped, and you've got the tree of Gondor, like that tree, a bud of that tree, a seedling from that tree has to make its way to Middle Earth, and what we know, at least what we think we know from Tolkien's writing, is that it's Isildur that brings that from Numenor to Middle Earth. So we have to get very early on. Like I know they're screwing with the timeline a little bit, but we're gonna need to get like what's going on with the Isildur. How does he go back to Numenor before it's destroyed and bring an army over and bring survivors over, bring people over, and bring a piece of that tree over? Or are they going to tinker with this a bit? And it's going to be his old man, again, name escaping me because I'm daft. Elendil, thank you. Is he going to be the one that, as Numenor is destroyed, are they going to tinker with it and have him be the one that you know what I mean? Like, so some little things that I think need to be addressed early on because that's a very important aspect of, I think, where the show is gonna be headed, because we'd be getting that tease of the destruction of Numenor, and we need to see the birth and the origin of Gondor.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, I agree completely. What you got, Billy?
I think that has to be in season 2. I think we talked about that, what we want to see. I think we need to see the creation of the kingdoms of men, and hopefully some kind of kings to come out of that Sauron can corrupt. And I hope that season 2 ends with maybe their creation of the ring.
Yeah,
I don't know.
One would think. I mean, they've set it up pretty well. I mean, clearly Halbrand knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Sauron,
now I could see this happening, right? Like, so like with season 1, I didn't think we'd get the Sauron reveal, and I thought we would get season 1 ending with the destruction of Numenor. We didn't get that. Now that I said I want to see Isildur and what's happening with him in the first episode, yeah, I want to see him, but maybe that's what season 2 is. Season 2 leads up to the destruction of Numenor.
It could.
And
that's why I say you won't see Isildur till later on.
Yeah. Well, I think we need to know what happens with him, because he's going to have to be, I think, halfway through the season, and that it's going to feel real rushed, his story, if that's the path they do take. I think that would be way too late to reintroduce Isildur. But what I'm hoping we also get is a little bit more of a backstory of Halbrand, right? His character, like the early days, of Sauron, and maybe Tom Bombadil is one of these people falling from the sky. I'd love to see a little Tommy B.
Yeah, that would be funny. I'll tell. And you also have Saruman. I know you mentioned too.
You think
Joe,
we'll get more wizards?
I think we should
get Saruman. That would be great. Radagast. I think we should get them all.
Give me the blues. Give me
Like
the Blues Brothers, please.
like wherever it is, that constellation, right? That Gandalf is heading to. Maybe that is where they all sort of meet. They all
Yeah.
have the same map.
Mhm.
We get Radagast, we get
Oh, that'd be
Saruman,
great.
but that
Yeah.
would
They
be
all
awesome.
meet up.
Yeah, but I'm with you on the Halbrand front. Like, I want all the Sauron story that I can get because they did like I was obviously we're already interested in Sauron, right? He's the big bad, and we're getting to see him finally in all these different ways. But the way what they did with the character and how they developed him over the course of the season and how they just kept us in the dark in so many ways, just like Galadriel, I just need to know everything. So I want to know some backstory. I want to know stuff going forward as well. Just give me like, if you spent the first 2 episodes on Sauron alone, I'd be surprised, but I also wouldn't complain one bit.
So with that said, and Billy, you can lead us off on this. Was the big bad successful or was it underwhelming?
No, I think they nailed it.
Yeah.
Oh,
I know they were trying to trick us. They were trying to make him out to be a couple other people, and right up till that last episode, they tried to okey doke us with the shady
Oh,
spot.
my fucking jaw hit the floor.
Yeah.
I can't remember which one of you two dipshits I sent the eyeball emojis to. It's just like, what the fuck?
But they were trying to trick us right to the end, and people got to remember that this stuff was written a long time ago. Okay, so they're not. People see this as like, oh, that's a trope. They're trying to deceive us. It's like, no, this started all that. So like, this was the original, fantasy stuff. So he probably thought of that as amazing, trying to like, oh, this stranger fell from the sky and everybody's gonna think that he's the bad guy. And it's like, I bet a lot of people did right up to the end there. That kind of goes with one of my later things. Can somebody who's not a giant nerd enjoy this show?
Yeah,
I think he was.
You what?
I think he was great. What they did, everything they did with him.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk, I think that the way they did this, like Gandalf in the end, it was obvious. Like we all knew we all thought it was Gandalf. We all sniffed it out. But because they were messing around with him so much, it set up for the more important twist, the one that we really cared about. And to me, I was blown away by it. Like we see so many different twists that we end up liking that we don't. But when I think of like some of the twists that we've seen in shows and everything, I gotta say, like this, I know there's probably a little recency bias on my part, but I'm blown away by the reveal with Halbrand being Sauron. I just thought that it was so well done, and they just did such a great job of hiding it all. So yeah, when you talk about the big bad and everything, I mean, oh yeah, they knocked it out of the park.
And as good as that was, and as much as we love that, I think what was even more successful was Adar, the Orc army, and the creation of Mordor and Mount Doom. I mean, that was pretty much that was plot 1B right to this season. If 1A was Galadriel and trying to sniff out Saruman, and we get Sauron, right? 1B was what Adar was doing and creating the Orc army and then giving us Mordor. That scene with Mount Doom and that crazy old fucking bastard setting up that chain reaction there. And then still you're getting the explosions of Mount Doom reaching the Harfoots, reaching all over, and just this overall mythology of what that area has become and what we see it, what it becomes, in Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, and Return of the King, right? That is such a pivotal moment, and I thought they nailed it because like there's a part of me that's thinking maybe Adar is Sauron because he's wearing that gauntlet and it looks like Sauron's gauntlet. Yeah. But then again, I'm like he's not intimidating enough. He's not big enough, right? It's like I need my quarterback to be 6'5". This dipshit's out here 5'8", running around, can't throw over the fucking lineman, right? So I'm like, that was the one thing where I never really felt Adar might have been Sauron, but like again, they evoked that imagery with the gauntlet. It looks like his gauntlet for when he gets his hand cut off, and the fascination with the orcs and all that. So like again, like I thought both those things, like when it came to the bad guys, it was chef's kiss. Absolute perfection.
I just want to note, Dr. Joe, known Jamarcus Russell fan, loves his Space Cowboys big and thick, or quarterbacks, excuse me. But anyways,
real thick.
Yeah, but what the thing for me when I think about like the pushback that this show got, like obviously there are certain reasons that just like where people kind of need to get like enter the 21st century. But then there's the other
exactly.
conversation of like, I get, if you don't like shows that move slow, then I can understand you getting turned off by this early on, because there are some slower points to this. But to me, what makes up for all of that is the epicness of the show. And Billy, you talked about it right off the rip, the cinematography in the way this is shot and the blend that where they failed with The Hobbit, they thrived here, where you have the practical effects, but then you also mix in the CGI. It was so well done. And the only show that, or only, I don't know if I can't think of many other things that like have done that same kind of thing where they bring me into this world that feels so like its own fantastical thing. Sandman is the only one that recently that I can think of doing that, and of course that's just in the dreaming, not actually in the real world, because that feels very real. But I absolutely love that component on this show. Was there? And oh yeah.
Oh, well, I was gonna say, for anyone that's bitching about, the pacing, the first few episodes are slow, go read Return of the King, right? Go read any Tolkien book, right?
Yeah.
The shit is drier than fucking 100-day-old brioche, right? Like, the Return of the King is a very hard book to read and get through. It is immensely. That's just Tolkien. That's his writing. I mean, he wrote these books 100 years ago, however long ago, right? It was.
Yeah.
Hobbit is great. Lord of the Rings is great. But then, like, once you get to the Two Towers, it's like, oh, I haven't even attempted to read the Silmarillion, right? Like, it's
I tried as a kid, I couldn't do it. I mean,
it's not finished, it's incomplete, right? All this, so like, but it's just
Book of Lost Tales is another thing. I think.
Yeah, like it takes time to. This is an immense world that we know, but we don't at the same time. And they had to build that a little bit. We have to get introduced to these characters. And it's not like it was like slow every single episode. No. First episode, I get it. Second, okay, it picks up the pace a bit. And then third episode on, you're cooking with gas.
Right. Now, at the same time, was there something that they didn't include, Billy, that you wanted?
Didn't include.
I know Joe had something.
Well, I mean, we both have Tom Bombadil, obviously.
Of course. Of course.
So this I just thought of this question, but it kind of goes with what I said. I wish we would have seen a little bit more of Numenor actually fighting. I think we only saw one actual battle, and that was at the episode 6 or 7. Yeah. 6, I think, when they were flying in on the horses, But I wish we would have seen a little bit more of that. But that something I just thought of. Is there something in this show that you look at? Like when I think of the trilogy of movies, the Ride of the Rohirrim stands out to me as like one of the most epic scenes.
Well, a lot of the landscape shots were, to me, it's like, this feels just like the Peter Jackson movies in all the right ways, and I love them. I'm a sucker for a good landscape shot, and then you have like the epic music kind of roll in and everything too. But when you talk about that, I mean, the first you mentioned before, it's not exactly in the same manner, but the Sauron and Galadriel in the water image. I mean, that was one. That's one that's
like, when you think of the show, what stands out as like one or two big things, and that's definitely one for me.
That one, and again, the chain events that with Mount Doom.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, that is a Helm's Deep-esque type of scene. Like, you tell me Two Towers, Helm's Deep. Boom. Yeah. Right. That's what's going to come to mind, spring to mind every single time. Return of the King. It's going to be, Aragorn, hopping off the fucking ghost ship with everyone. Right. And coming in or the scene, or the scene at the end, where they're having that big battle, or you've got that scene again, when Gandalf comes in, at the end of Helm's Deep, like there's some like iconic moments. And like this season for me, it's just that, boom, he puts that key in, he twists it, and then you see the lava go, and then bang, bang, boom. Like, that was such a great scene.
Yeah.
That was really good.
It was. Also, low-key thing, not something I'm going to remember from the show because I forgot about it until now. The sea monster stuff, no thank you, man. That shit freaks me out. Always find it interesting, but freaks me out. We do have that larger question that Billy mentioned earlier about the non-Lord of the Rings nerds, but I want to save that for last and just jump to this one quickly first. Rank the following, fellas. Joe, I'm going to throw this to you first. We have Rings of Power, House of the Dragon, and The Witcher.
Okay, so I'm going Rings of Power 1, Witcher 2. I still haven't watched House of Dragon. I don't know. My interest, I said this from the beginning. I started to watch the first episode. I fell asleep. It wasn't because I was bored. It was just because I put it on late at night. But like for me, I from the onset, I'm just gonna wait until this is out, and then I'll binge it all together. I don't know when I'll get to that. I know the Dork Boys and Shime, right? Them Throne Boys really seem to love it. But like from what I've heard, like I don't need to watch an entire series of
Incest.
yes, exactly. Brothers and sisters are banging each other. I don't fucking need that.
It's
Right?
actually nieces and uncles, so get your fucking shit straight.
Yeah, fuck that. But like this is so good, and The Witcher is tremendous. And the reason why I still haven't finished season 2 of The Witcher,
What?
but that was I did on purpose because I was watching season 1 and then I watched the first couple episodes of season 2 and then I put it on hiatus because I went through and I listened to all of the Witcher books on audiobook because I wanted to know everything I could about that world so that when I jump back into it, I can. It's not like I don't need the books to have an appreciation. I just smoked my mic to have an appreciation for the show. I just want it because I love that world so much.
Yeah.
Right. And I think Netflix has nailed it with The Witcher. I love it. So that's how I would rank it.
Yeah, I know you're dying to get more Witcher stuff, and I don't blame you. I'm right there with you. Billy, how do you have those 3 shows ranked?
It's gonna sound lame, but I'm almost the same because I also haven't watched House of Dragon. I have Witcher number 2, and I'd have this as number 1.
Yeah.
I think though, if I swap House of Dragon for original Game of Thrones, even though it ended kind of shittily, I think I'd probably put that as number 2 because that was kind of like a cultural phenomenon.
Sure.
Like those first 1 through 6, I think. I mean, it was like every Sunday night. Monday was like, oh, I gotta text people, I gotta talk about it at work. Like it was a huge cultural thing. And I wish that this would be that. I don't think it is, but maybe as we go forward, it could be. Maybe after this season. If they tighten it up a little for the average person, we'll talk about that with the other point. But yeah, I'd have Rings of Power, I'd have original Game of Thrones, and I'd have Witcher. But I haven't seen House of Dragon either, and that's just because I suck at watching TV. So.
Well, it's a good thing we have you on. But
I watch this show.
Yes. For me, it is this order, and that's why I wanted to ask this question. And honestly, Billy, I started having similar thoughts to you about Game of Thrones. This show had me doubting how I feel about just the Game of Thrones world in general. I've been watching House of the Dragon. I think I'm 1 episode behind as the crow flies, but I've been like. I'm thinking you don't get all this crazy incest stuff that you lean on in just like all about the throne in The Witcher. There's a lot going on, and there's definitely throne stuff happening, but it's mystical and dark and all that, and then you're bringing in different monsters, and I love that. And then Rings of Power, it's just like I love Lord of the Rings. We all do. I mean, the 3 of us. This is exactly what we want it to be. And then I go and look at House of the Dragon, and I'm just like. Is that you got a nubbin growing over there or something like that? You fucking weirdo! Like, what is this shit? So I'm gonna finish House of the Dragon, but I have it's out Sunday, and I'm like, I'm not telling Lauren like, hey, we got to watch House of the Dragon. It's like it's kind of work sometimes to keep up with it.
Yeah,
but not even on my radar. It's like literally Sunday comes and goes, and I did watch the first episode, and I thought it was fine. It was better than I thought it was gonna be. I'll give it that credit. The way that series ended. Yeah, but it didn't get me to be like, oh, I can't wait till next Sunday.
See, I liked the first episode a lot, but it was legitimately the Rings of Power made me think like, huh. There was probably a little bit where I was like, it's kind of, it's okay, but there's a lot of bouncing around. Like, it's not bad. The House of the Dragon is not bad, but it's just like, when you look at those 2 things, they're far superior, I think, at this stage. But then we go to the final question that I want to ask you guys. And again, Joe, lead us off with this one. Can non-Lord of the Rings nerds enjoy the Rings of Power?
So this was a tough one to answer because, on one hand, there's not a lot of people out there. Like, you'd have to be born in 1998 or later to maybe not really be wise or hip or enjoy the Lord of the Rings, right? Because the movies came out, right? So like most people are at least very familiar, with this show. And I think even those who have just watched the movies, have never read the books, I think would enjoy the show. I don't think there's going to be many people who are really unfamiliar with Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit, right? That would be like, oh, what's this? I've never heard of the Lord of the Rings before, and decide to watch it. But with that said, like I think the hardcore, like you, Billy, myself, right, people who love Lord of the Rings, love this world. I think you're gonna love this show. I think for like the casual Lord of the Rings fan who maybe have just seen the Hobbit movies or just watched the regular movies like once or twice, I think they could enjoy this, but I think like again, you've got to get past those first 2 episodes because I could see people going, oh, it's a little too slow. There's not a lot of action. This might not be for me. If they're just a casual fan and maybe they check out. But I think a majority of people who are watching the show are hardcore Lord of the Rings fans, right? And there's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them,
right? And like when you think of like Game of Thrones, like there's less world building in this than there was in that. There's 1,000 fucking characters you've got to try and remember in Games of Thrones. The reason why that, like, Billy's right. The first several seasons of Game of Thrones is awesome. Why is that? Because there's fucking violence. There's titties all over the place, right? And there's kick-ass wolves. Like there's like, it's like, yeah, there's a lot to sink your teeth into. Even if there's like 1,000 like different characters, you got to try it. But they like, we talk about this on TLDR, like the purpose of that first issue is to sink its, teeth into you. And that's like what season 1 of Game of Thrones does. This does it, but it just takes a little bit longer to get there because that's just the source material, right? Tolkien wasn't like all about tits and ass and beheadings, right? He's creating languages and he's developing new races and drawing maps, right? Like, so like fans, like hardcore fans of Lord of the Rings, I think are going to eat this up. And the Easter eggs that we get littered throughout this season is perfect because now you're looking for it. And I almost already started rewatching this series.
I thought about doing that too.
Right. And I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it real soon because I want to try and pick up on all the little things that I missed.
Yeah, because there's definitely a lot of breadcrumbs that they left. The better Billy D, what say you?
Well, this was my thing I came up with, and it was because I had talked to a friend, and I don't know how much of a fan he is. I know he's watched the movies, obviously, and I believe he's read some of the books, but it might have been years and years ago. But he just said, yeah, it's a little slow. I'm like, you got to just stick with it. You got to get to, I told him to get to Numenor. I think that is episode 3, like you said. I think if you can get over that hump, the first couple they're also long, which I love. I hate when we have to wait a week for a show that's 22 minutes. I like that these shows are 60, 70 minutes long because they have to build a lot of stuff and they have to explain a lot of things. And I'm glad about that. But I think you're right. I think there's enough Lord of the Rings fans, even casual ones, if you're a fan of the Lord of the Rings. If you're just a general person that's just like, hey, what's a new show I can watch? I don't know if they get much out of this, if they really don't know too much. But I guess, like you said, it's got to be a real young audience that do that.
And I think they were smart to give you known characters right off the shoot. Like give you Galadriel, give you names that even the most basic of Lord of the Rings fans are gonna know.
Yes.
Right. You're gonna know, Elrond. You're going to know Galadriel. Right. You might not know who Gil-galad is, and but like, some of these other characters, Durin, right? Even the most casual fan might not know who Durin is, right? But it's, they giving you those 2 big names right off the bat. Like that's what so I think that was smart. But yeah, like the casual, just sort of nonchalant. Like, I don't think there's going to be someone that's going to be, oh, honey, what should we watch today? Oh, look, it says Lord of the Rings of Power. Yeah, let's give that a go. I think that the people that enjoy and watch the show are already well-established fans.
I tend to agree with you guys on the premise that the average person is more than likely not going to stumble upon this and be like, oh yeah, I want to watch this. But I do think the way this is done, the average person who doesn't know anything about Lord of the Rings could still watch this and could still enjoy it because
it is good.
It
Yeah.
is objectively just a good show. You guys do raise a good point about the pace of it, because my dad really likes Lord of the Rings, but he was like, "Oh yeah, the first episode was kind of slow. How was the rest of it?" And I'm like, "You motherfucker! Like, what are you talking about? Oh, this is too slow." Like, that's my whole thing. Is like, if you appreciate the level of epicness that comes with this show, and with Lord of the Rings too, where you talk about like with Thrones, how we talk about how they get really down and dirty. It does make it a little bit harder, I think, to go into that like epicness that Lord of the Rings have. They're both epic in their own right. I know I keep repeating the same word, but there's something like a gloriousness, I guess, about Lord of the Rings. I don't think you can get with Game of Thrones, because it's just so dark and dingy, and that's part of what works for it. So it's great.
Yeah.
But I think if you appreciate that sort of thing and you haven't seen other Lord of the Rings stuff, like I don't know how that's happened, but you can very much enjoy this still, and then go back and watch the other stuff, and then come back and watch this again,
Yeah.
and then you're gonna enjoy it even more so.
The rewatchability for this for me is already off the charts.
Yep.
Right? I can't like I think it was Sunday. I'm gonna start it back in, right? And start with, because like again, some of those things, it's like the interaction between Adar and oh shit,
Halbrand?
Halbrand. Thank you. Like,
You're welcome.
oh shit, that's a really great, yeah. Like,
Yeah, I didn't even
right,
catch
it
that.
didn't even like really strike me, in the
Mm.
moment that it happened. So not like knowing what we know now, like going back, like I'm sure there's going to be a ton of stuff that we fucking missed that we
Mhm.
haven't mentioned, talking today. I'm like, oh fuck, and then we're going to be texting each other and be like, so
Yeah.
excellent. I mean that again, it brought the water cooler talk, at least for me, back to making it appointment television.
Now, this is a little on the fly. Last question though for you guys. Is this your favorite show of the year, Joseph?
Oh yeah, hands down, hands
Mhm.
down. I could, well, because it's like I've talked ad nauseum sort of about my disappointment about the up and down of what Marvel's done, and what Disney has done with Star Wars. Like I
Sure.
haven't even started Andor yet.
Nor have I.
Obi-Wan was fine. I mean, I really enjoyed Nighthawk, not Nighthawk, Hawkeye. I enjoyed Moon Knight, right? But they're not anywhere close to the level that we got
Agreed.
here. Like I said, I haven't even watched Game of Thrones yet. So and I haven't watched Game and Show there.
You didn't
because
watch Sandman.
I'm a chicken shit. I haven't watched it yet.
That is the only one that's on the same level for me. These are my two favorite shows of the year. I think right now I'm leaning Rings of Power, but the Sandman, in a different way, was for similar reasons. Their aura around those shows was so cool. Very different auras, but I loved it for both of them. I was like, I just want to hang out. I'm comfortable hanging out in this world, and like, let's just go for this ride and take me there. We're going to go on different paths. One's a lot fucking darker and a lot weirder, but I was totally here for it when it came to both. But Billy, is it same for you, or did you watch Sandman at all?
No, I didn't watch Sandman. I didn't really know what that was, honestly, until very close to when it came out. But
Gotcha.
it sounds cool. It sounds dark and gritty and like a cool thing. But as of right now, yeah, I've been more disappointed with Marvel than pleased with most stuff. I hear Andor is very good,
Heard it
but
was solid.
I watched the first two episodes, and we can quote this one on quote me on this, but Blandor. The first two episodes, I was almost falling asleep, but I hear it picks up and is very good. I'm seeing like solid 10 out of 10s for like episodes 5 and 6 out there. But as of right now, yeah, it's number one. But again, I don't watch a ton of stuff besides some weekly shit. But it's
like Paper Girls was good. It was fine.
It was
It didn't
solid.
blow I was hoping it would knock my socks off, and it was a fine show.
Stranger Things actually was this year,
Oh,
right?
Oh,
shit!
right.
Yes,
Wow.
yes. I would still put this ahead of Stranger Things.
Yes, but that's those.
That's
three.
real. It's much closer than anything else.
Forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yep, I did too. Yeah, those.
This is like an experience, I don't know. It's
Agreed.
like Lord of the Rings, like you said. Lord of the Rings is kind of like a magical thing. And
I am first and foremost, Lord of the Rings guy. Before I'm a Stranger Things guy.
to get something new with Lord of the Rings and the money's behind it and the production's behind it. It was just like it was fun being able to get back into it again after almost a decade from the Hobbits.
Ugh, messes those were.
I know you're engaged, Nicholas. Are you fucking wearing a promise ring?
No, this isn't a promise ring. This is a ring. This is the one ring. And
The
you
one
guys
ring?
didn't know. It was actually black originally.
Oh.
Yes. No, this is a ring. But is that a problem? Is that bother you? I've been wearing it for like months, you dumbass.
Thought you were wearing a promise ring.
Wow, what the hell you think this is? There's some not even on my ring finger. Okay. Anyways, so that is our Rings of Power season 1 review. I think we're gonna have to do this again when season 2 comes back up because no one else in the DSG is talking about it right now.
Only ones, baby.
Yep, we absolutely love this show. Billy making his debut in the DSG. Of course, you can find all his amazing work on Twitter at Billy D the Greek. Are you also on Instagram at that same handle, Billy?
I am.
You are.
Yes.
I'm waiting for the Blandor merchandise to come out from Mac and Goo. That is gold. That and mouse gold.
I don't even know if they're watching it. Are they?
They probably aren't, but you know what? They will still appreciate that because Joe and I haven't watched a second of it either.
Yep.
But Joe, we will be actually talking about comics next week. We'll actually not be doing an interview. We will be getting into horror books that we've been wanting to tell each other about. Very excited to do that. Until then, stay sexy.
Yeah. We'll see if I'm doing Night of the Ghoul or not.
You mother.